They said my hair was too wild, too political, too distracting. They said it didn't belong in the boardroom, the courtroom, or the bench. But tell me, what is wilder than asking people to erase themselves to be seen as professional? What is more political than policing Black women's crowns while pretending it's about neatness or fit? So today I stand before you with one simple truth: our hair is not a liability. It is our lineage, our legacy, our liberation. And if the law can finally recognize the dignity of our crowns, then maybe, just maybe, it can recognize the dignity of us all. I'm Professor Johnson Jean-Louis Hardrick. Today I bring you Locks, Law, and Liberation.
Being a preacher's daughter, you don't leave the house unless you're well-dressed and well-groomed. But I braided my hair in my 50s with my hair braided, and I would have it braided, and sometimes I'd have the back loose. But my girlfriend, Joan Bruce, would come over and braid it for me because I was trying to let it grow out. And eventually, I wasn't quite ready for the big chop. And I had a real bossy, older white secretary, Patty Voorhees. She's such a good friend. She was at my children's weddings. I still have lunch with her. She said to me one day, I called this Brazilian beauty shop down the street, and they said it's time for you to get your hair cut if you're going to natural. And I'm like, well, who told you to know what I'm supposed to do? And she just laughed at me. So I went down to because I was ready. I was trying to figure out how and when. So I went down to this beauty shop, and she said, I can put some creatine. I said, hold on, let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to use some natural shampoo. You are going to wash my hair. You're going to cut my hair. And I hate the beauty shop so much, I'm not going to even stay here till it dries. So if you put something on my hair that I didn't tell you to put on it, I'm an attorney. I will sue you and shut your, and I ain't playing with you. So she said, okay. So she washed it and she cut it, and I came home. I knew how I wanted it to look, but again, my hair naturally is very coarse, very heavy, very dense. As much hair as I have now, I had 5 times that much as a child. So I was wrestling with how am I going to do it? I would try to twist it. It would just be a nappy little, I couldn't figure it out. And one day, Jimmy and I were at the Publix getting some sandwiches to watch a Gator game. And this was between the braids and figuring out what products. And my husband is very complimentary. He is very complimentary of me. He's very kind. And he looked at me standing at the deli counter, and he said, okay, Kizzy, what are we going to do with this hair? Jocelyn, I started to cry. I started to weep. He grabbed me and hugged me. And the Black lady behind the counter looked at him like, you abusive man, what did you do? He almost had to carry me to the car. And I said, Jimmy, I'm struggling because this was like 2011, 2012. I said, I'm struggling with this, but I'm not going to reperm my hair. I can't figure it out. So I called my girlfriend, Joan Bruce, the one that would braid it for me. And she said, I was crying. I said, I'm going to go get a perm. She said, don't, let me call my sister in New York. So she called me back and she said, my sister said, go to every salon you can find until you find a Black person. This is your hair. It's long, it's thick, it's heavy, it's wiry. I went to the Sally's, and it was an African-American guy. And I walked in, I was crying, and my face was red. And he said, sweetheart, what's the matter? And I said, I'm trying to go natural, but I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to go to I would not go to the beauty shop. I said, I won't set foot in there for the rest of my life. And when I fell apart that day at Publix, Jimmy said, why did you start crying like that? And I said, I guess all the years of trauma with, look at her hair. Where'd you get those ponytails? Oh my God, give me one of those plaits. And I said, that and my butt are probably my my psychological damage as a child and listening to the ladies in the beauty shop. Oh, Reverend Smith brings the girls, he tips so well, but we're going to rotate who's going to do Renee's hair. I'm not doing it 2 weeks in a row. And I would say, Dad, when you leave me there, they talk about me.
So I ended up in the private sector, more in like a big law firm type setting. I was the only Black female attorney. There was one Black male attorney. I think I felt like I got a lot more comments and looks about my hair. Never anything meant to be negative, but like also some curiosity and some kind of just like didn't really make me feel comfortable. About a couple months into my job, we were all sitting, a bunch of associates, we were sitting in our break room. I had my hair in a puff like this, and a higher up attorney, a partner in the firm, kind of came up and made a comment like, "Oh, everyone here at this table has cool hair." And I'm like thinking to myself, like, "Oh, maybe he's just saying that because he doesn't have hair himself." And as I'm sitting there, he's kind of standing kind of behind me, and I just feel him go like this to my hair. And I kind of pause because I'm like, I don't know how to react. Like, I have talked about this with my mentors in law school, but I'm like, how do I react? I just started this job. People don't really know me. I'm the only Black female attorney. I'm like, I can't react in like shock and anger because that's going to color how they look at me. So I didn't say anything. And then I went back to my office and I went to my colleague's office, the other Black attorney. I'm like, he touched my hair. Like, I didn't know what to do. I actually called one of my mentors and he was very upset and was like, you need to like call HR, you need to do this. And I was like, I literally just started this job. I don't know that I feel comfortable doing all of that. So I didn't address it. And then actually a couple days later, I was on the elevator with some coworkers and one of them brought it up and she was like, I couldn't believe that he did that. And I was like, well, me either. And one of our other senior partners was on the elevator while we are discussing it. And I don't really know her, so I didn't want to go into it. But also my thought was, if you saw that it was outrageous, why didn't you say something? Like, why do I have to be the one to say it? So that kind of like bothered me because I'm like, if you were also bothered, you could have said something instead of leaving it to me. But a couple weeks later, sitting in the break room again, myself and the other Black attorney were having lunch. The same senior partner who did my hair was at another table. My colleague, he wore his hair short, close to his head. So he was walking over, and I don't know if like maybe he hadn't had a haircut. It was like getting up to the point of needing a haircut, so it was a little bit longer than usual. But the senior partner literally ran his hand across his head as he was walking by and was like, "Oh, are you trying to grow your hair out like Shannon?" And I was like mid-sentence, and I just like stopped because I lost all track of what I was speaking about. So we went back to our offices, and I was like, I'm gonna call HR.
That was my first real lesson. And I think from that moment, that was potential that kind of my mom and my own childhood history is why Johnson, I take the educated route, not the offensive route. Don't get ignorant when it comes to hair. I know you're ignorant. Let me just go educate you with a smile, some kindness, and know kind of situation. And be there like, what's me? Because homegirl over there ain't gonna be as nice as I was. And I tell us that too. You can't, but I'm different. I'll give you a little grace and use some education, but you can't direct. I'm gonna be like, don't assume you get the same reaction from every single Black person you see, because you're not.
I had a judge, not in this jurisdiction, but I was on my way to vacation. Actually, like the next morning, I was flying out to go somewhere. So I had my birthday cornrows.
I know it's gonna be cornrows.
Feed in. I mean, they were beautiful. And the motion I was going to argue was the same exact motion that my colleague argued 3 weeks earlier. Same motion that everyone has argued in that jurisdiction. And it's pretty much guaranteed we know what the outcome's going to be. My case, no different. I showed up. I guess I was just looking too fly for the judge, and she denied my motion. And everything was the same. She didn't have a reason, but I could just feel like she felt that I don't know if she felt I was disrespecting her or disrespecting the court with my hairstyle, but She did have a basis. She denied it. And I left on a Friday. I think when I got back on Sunday, she reversed herself because she knew she wasn't following the law. She had no reason. As I'm going to the airport, I had to tell my supervisor, like, hey, I just lost this motion. And it's so weird. Really have no way to explain this. And he's like, don't worry about it. Just come back and we'll talk about it. Because it was basically appealable. And no, by the time I got back, she had already, I guess she really thought about it and she reversed herself. But I mean, it wasn't said, but I felt it. No one ever loses this motion. I just couldn't worry about it. I'm like, well, I'll deal with it when I get back. And if the client wants to appeal, we'll appeal. But yeah, I mean, nothing negative in court. Like no one has like just blatantly said something in court, but at work for sure.
It does play a role in like interviewing and interning and what people are going to think. If I come in with like a big old afro and a headband, or if I come in with very long braids or cornrows, like I was a cornrow, I went through a phase of my life where I kept a different braid direction of cornrows. And so like, how do you make that look more quote unquote professional? The majority of the people where you work do not have cornrows. They will probably never have cornrows. But how do you make it look a little bit more tapered and corporate? Like, so they were like, because when I left work or internship, I was, not lawyer pie. As long as I had the option of making it straight again, if I needed to interview or photograph, I was okay. As long as I had that option. And so locking removed that option, just to kind of like fast forward to where I am in the last 2 or 3 years. Locking removed the option of ever being able to quote unquote make it straight again, right? But locking was something that I always wanted to do. Like for years, I wanted to lock my hair to the point that when people realized that I locked my hair, they didn't think anything of it because I had always worn my hair in like a faux lock style. And people were like, why didn't you didn't you always have that? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, it just seemed like you did, because I had kind of adopted this faux lock style and in the crochet / hair faux lock, goddess lock extension era of like 2016, 17. And that became popular. And then I graduated to just lock. So to be perfectly honest, I had my supervisor boss at the time was like, you do what you need to do with your hair and everybody else will be okay. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think that is a statement that we need to make to women, just people, but especially women of color. We need to say, like, you need to do whatever you need to do, whatever best for your hair, and everybody else will be okay.
If you're in a position where you're making a grooming standard, where you're trying to hire someone, where you're training people, where you're educating people, you may not have locks or braids or twists or naturally kinky, curly, coily hair, but there's a good chance you're interacting with someone who does. If you can understand all of these issues behind it, then we can destigmatize it and focus on what really matters. Supporting one another, doing the work that we do, representing our communities, fighting for justice. We need more lawyers, in case you haven't noticed. Some interesting things happening in our country and our government, and lawyers are at the forefront of it. I'm not going to be worried about the lawyer's hairstyle. I want to be concerned about that lawyer's integrity, their ability, their competence. That's what matters. So, sis, we need you to show up as your true, authentic self. We invite you to watch the rest of these interviews for Locks Law Liberation, read the paper, and go to the website. For more information, go to lockslawliberation.com.